you mentioned, Waz, that voters aren't happy with the Trump economy. That is true, unless you're talking about Republican voters. So Trump has the largest gap of any president in the last 80 years between his approval rating among members of his own party. 90% of them are loving what he's up to. And his approval rating from the opposing party, 4%. So that's Democrats. And that's according to analysis of 3 decades of NBC News polling and earlier data from Gallup. Among independents, only 30% approve and 67% disapprove of Trump's performance in office. And yeah, independents, people like me, are the ones who, at this point, decide elections. But I don't know. Trump doesn't really seem to care. As long as his core base is behind him, he doesn't need to win re-election, right? Like, he's not concerned about that. So I don't know if this is going to have any impact on his decision-making. Now, when you break down that data, Trump has a negative approval rating on every major issue except one. Let's see what that issue is.
Trump's net approval rating on major issues, positive. Immigration, how about negative? The economy, federal budget, foreign policy, healthcare, tariffs, underwater on all of these issues, and that is what is dragging Donald Trump down.
Despite all of the stories in the news about terrible acts committed against people through the deportation processes and all that, doesn't matter. Honestly, Biden bungled the border issue so much, and Democrats tried to gaslight American voters so much about that issue, it created a vacuum, and it made people desperate for anyone to do something. And so, yeah, they approve of what Trump is doing with immigration. Yeah. That's what happens when Democrats are losers who refuse to acknowledge their failures and fix it. But I'm the bad guy for mentioning that, right? I'm the bad guy. Okay, well, congratulations.
It's not just that. I think Biden's immigration policy was just a radical shift. Like, you can say we as a country are pretty great and should be able to absorb 8 million new people. I tend to be on that side of things. But most people felt like it was too much, too soon, and wanted something done about it. And I think immigration is the only one where he's actually going out and selling a story. Yeah, all the crazy stuff about El Salvador and blah, 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 they're criminals. We're deporting criminals, gangs, criminals. We're getting them out of here. Never mind that the net, deportation actual numbers aren't actually that sick. If you were somebody who's into that type of thing, you would have thought that Trump would have been deporting hundreds and thousands by the day. By now, that's not actually happening. But I think the coverage that he's getting, I think people that wanted to see something done on immigration are like, look, even if it's not happening, this guy is actually stopping the sort of migration at the border, at the southern border, and it feels like he's trying to do something about a situation that people saw as unwieldy, unruly, and needed to be gotten under control. Again, you can agree or disagree with that statement. I happen to be against somebody who thinks we got plenty of room for people. If we
was, I gotta challenge you on this, because
sure.
Look, I used to say these things, right? Because it feels good. And you come across as a good, kind person when you're like, no, we've got room, we've got resources, it's fine. But how do you, on one hand, acknowledge that we are short 4 million housing units, and then at the same time say that it's totally fine that 8 million people cross the border?
Well, that's my point. We would have to have a policy that addressed that, right? Like, I don't.
But we don't, and we're not going to.
America is a shack, and 8 million people are going to make the shack feel cramped. I think we'd have to marry that immigration policy that Biden had with housing policy. Like, these things would have to be working hand in hand. And we'd have to have an orderly process in terms of processing these people.